Alrighty guys, Defenders Saga Rewatch is back. Let's talk about Jessica Jones Season 2. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, whether you've stumbled upon this clip on YouTube, this segment on YouTube, or whether or not you're just checking out the Access Blockbusters Pod for the first time, and you're just joining us on our Defenders Saga Rewatch, then welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's give a little bit of context before we dive into Jessica Jones Season 2. So, we have been doing, over the last 6 or 7 months, a full rewatch of the Defenders Saga, the Marvel Netflix show, starting with Daredevil Season 1. The reason that this started was Daredevil Born Again Season 1 came out in March. And at the time, I said, I want to rewatch all 3 seasons of Daredevil and maybe the Defenders, right? Those are all the seasons that Daredevil appeared in the Netflix shows. I want to rewatch all of those and then dive into Daredevil Born Again Season 1. That didn't necessarily happen, right? I started Daredevil Born Again Season 1 and then started Daredevil Season 1. And by the time I finished Daredevil Season 1, Daredevil Born Again was almost over, and I thought, okay, let's dive into Daredevil Season 2, and then I kind of thought, well, let's maybe give Jessica Jones a try. At the time, I had no idea that Jessica Jones was going to be coming back for Season 2. I had no idea about Punisher returning for Spider-Man Brand New Day. I previously had only seen Daredevil Season 1, Daredevil Season 2, The Defenders, and then Daredevil Season 3. I tried Jessica Jones initially way back when, 2019 or so, and just wasn't a big fan of it. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as we talk about Jessica Jones Season 2. You can check out my full rewatches, though, of previous seasons like Jessica Jones Season 1, but we've done all that now. So I decided at that point, let's just dive in and check all these shows out and see if I like them now, or maybe I didn't, because I initially watched, I think, a couple episodes of Jessica Jones way back when, and just didn't really like it, so I just skipped it and went to Daredevil and finished out his story. So, we've done all those series thus far. Daredevil Season 1, Jessica Jones Season 1, Daredevil Season 2, Luke Cage Season 1, Iron Fist Season 1, The Defenders, and then we just recently did The Punisher Season 1. So we're going in release order, and now we are on to Jessica Jones Season 2. Just for a little bit more background as we dive into Jessica Jones now, I watched Season 1. And I'd heard good things about Jessica Jones in general. She was the only other Defenders character to get 3 seasons, and she is now coming back for Daredevil Born Again Season 2. Mike Coulter and Finn Jones might be back for Season 2 of Daredevil Born Again, but it seemed like fans were really clamoring for Kristen Ritter to rejoin the MCU, because now all these shows are really MCU canon, and actually Daredevil Born Again, Jessica Jones, rather, Season 2 has a lot of references to the Raft in it, so now that all these MCU connections are being made, it seems like it's much more obvious now. Anyways, it seemed like fans were really excited for Kristen Ritter to be coming back as Jessica Jones. I have to say, though, and you can go check out my full video where we talk about Jessica Jones Season 1, I wasn't the biggest fan of Jessica Jones Season 1. I thought that there were things to like. I thought that David Tennant's performance as Kilgrave was pretty strong, and I think that Kristen Ritter did a good job. But I think at a certain point, the show just kind of dragged along, and she was being, taken over by Kilgrave, and then they kind of stop him, and then he escapes, and they kind of take over, get taken over by Kilgrave and whatnot. And it was entertaining, and it was not like there were any parts of it where I was going, oh my gosh, this is terrible, whatever. Because, look, I mean, I didn't hate Iron Fist, but there were definitely parts of the latter half of the Iron Fist Season 1 where I was going, oh my gosh, this writing is terrible, and this is blah, 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 blah. Again, I don't hate Iron Fist. I just didn't love it as much as I think we all wish we did. So there's that. But Jessica Jones Season 1, I wasn't a big fan of it, to be honest with you. I didn't hate it, but I just, probably my least favorite season of Defenders television, aside from Iron Fist Season 1. It just personally wasn't for me. I think that the other thing, too, is that it's just hard to make a show revolving around a person who is, let's just face it, Jessica Jones as a character is a very self-destructive person. And, there are other shows like that. Like, for example, if you watch HBO's Euphoria, just as an example, it is hard to watch at times when characters are basically just self-destructive and really hard on themselves all the time. I think that that's kind of a hard show to watch. So we head into Jessica Jones Season 2. I was wondering, were there going to be many Defenders connections into this? The answer is no, not really. It's just post-Defenders. I mean, she makes reference, I think, a couple times to the events of the Defenders, but not really. And other than that, I had no idea what to expect. Other than I knew that was it his name? Will Simpson, whatever, Agent Simpson. I think his name is Will. Is his name Will? Anyways, I knew that Simpson was going to be coming back in some form or fashion. I didn't know he was going to die in the first couple episodes, so that was a surprise to me, because I knew I think I saw on a cast listing or something that Simpson was going to be coming back for season 2, and I was like, oh, interesting. Maybe he's going to be the villain. He turns out he's only there for like 1 or 2 episodes. But other than that, I knew nothing. And I have to say, I think Iron Fist season 1 is still my least favorite Defenders season of television, but I wrestled with this one for a while. I was just about ready. By the time we got to episode 10 or 11 out of 13, I was just about ready to put this as my least favorite. I think the last couple episodes pushed this show up a little bit more, but I was just not a fan of this season. And it's interesting because this is just one of those cases where I'm in the minority. It seems like critics and audiences, I think, really enjoyed this season of television. And it sucks because I'm just not one of them. And I wanted to enjoy this so much more than I did. And it comes down to one big central thing. I just don't really feel like I'm invested in these characters. And I think that Jessica Jones, it's one thing for Jessica Jones, because I think that Kristen Ritter does a good job. She portrays the character that she's being asked to portray well. Again, it is hard to watch a character like that sometimes because she is just so hard on herself, and there is just so much self-loathing I think that character harbors that it's not as easy to watch. Because, again, I'm not saying that all characters have to be bubbly and happy-go-lucky all the time. I mean, all these Defenders, right? Daredevil, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Punisher especially. They are very, very, very hard on themselves. They operate in gray areas, some more so than others. And, Daredevil, right? Daredevil operates in a very gray area. But I think that there is still a shining grit and light in somebody like Matt Murdock, for example. And it's just hard because Jessica Jones just is such a lost character. And again, intentionally so, right? Intentionally so. And that's part of the arc of this season with her mother, right? Played by Janet McTeer. It's just that it's hard to watch her as a character. But that is what it is, right? I think that she gives a good performance, Kristen Ritter, and I think that the character is intentionally meant to go on this journey, and that's all well and good. But the side characters, I have to say, for television especially, because movies, it's one thing. If the side characters are not as interesting, fine. You're there for 2 hours and you're out. It's not as big of a deal. But for television, when you're asked to watch, especially in this case, 13 episodes of about 45 minutes each with these characters, the side characters really matter. That is why, honestly, Daredevil elevates so high. Because Foggy and Karen and Claire and Kingpin and Bullseye, these characters are so interesting and so fascinating in their own right. I think that for Iron Fist, even though I didn't love Iron Fist, I thought Colleen Wing was interesting. Again, not the greatest dialogue towards the end. Bakuto, we don't talk about Bakuto. We don't, and the Meachums, fine, whatever. Luke Cage, I thought that the supporting cast around Luke Cage was interesting, right? Misty Knight and Pops and all those, the section of Harlem that they were, exploring in Luke Cage. I thought it was all really interesting. Jessica Jones, Trish Walker is becoming a more central character in this season, and I haven't seen season 3, but based on the way that season 2 ends, you have to imagine that Trish Walker is going to be either the villain or a big part of season 3, whatever that's going to be. And that's the last season that we're going to do before we do a rewatch of Daredevil Born Again season 1, excuse me. So there's that. But I don't know if it's the performance. I don't know if it's the way the character is written. I just am not getting on board with this character and her struggles. You get it. I get it. This is another character with incredibly self-destructive tendencies. Malcolm, again, same thing, right? He was an addict and he's being pulled in a lot of different directions. You feel bad for him, right? But again, it feels like he's trying to do the right thing, but he's just surrounded by people who don't want the best for him. Hogarth, same thing, literally, physically, right, with the illness in this season, but then also just she's a vicious character in general, and it's hard to root for her because she's not meant to be rooted for in some cases. She does some not good things, right? And Jessica's mother, first of all, I didn't know Janet McTeer was going to be in this series, and when I found out, because we'd done segments before about Janet McTeer, who I had never really seen in anything before, so she was just a name to me, an actress in Hollywood. But we talked about her being the new Minerva McGonagall, which is great. I knew nothing about her, and so I kind of, maybe in my naivety, assumed that she would be kind of similar to Maggie Smith of, a very proper and very kind of gentle character actress. And for all I know, Janet McTeer has just an incredible range, and she can play that because in this season of television, she was basically asked to be a living Hulk kind of person, a rage monster kind of character, if you will. And so that is a complete 180 from somebody, what I'm expecting from a McGonagall, which again, I'm excited. Maybe we'll get to see her range, really get to see her a very different side of her. Or maybe this is going to be a very angry McGonagall for all I know. That's a complete aside. Look, all the story things, the story beats, it's laid out there. And we'll talk about the story in just a second. I just could not, I don't know. Again, I don't know if it's the performance. I think part of the performances are supposed to, because I think every character in the show is meant to be angsty in a certain way. And not angsty in a teen angst kind of way, just dealing with hard emotions, right? That kind of angst. And I think all the performers are told to play their characters in such a way of, I don't talk to me, I don't need your help. And and again, that is what it is. When every character is like that, though, it's just hard. And with Alyssa, right? Alyssa Jones. It's hard because you get the sense that she cares a lot about Jessica. That's what they want you to feel. You get the sense towards the end of the season that Jessica cares a lot about her. Because, I mean, what would you do if your presumed dead mother shows up again and she turns into this just crazy person, but also person who has mental issues and is trying to get past them, right? I mean, it's just a complicated situation. I get that. I never once, though, emotionally, because I literally on a story level, of course, I'm understanding what's going on and what the creators want me to feel. On an emotional level, I just could not find myself buying into this at all. It's weird. And the funny thing about this show, going back to the story, right, is that, unlike Iron Fist Season 1, which I just think the ending fell apart and the writing fell apart and I don't know what happened. Because again, I've said it before, I enjoy the first little chunk of Iron Fist. I think it's fine. I think it's fun. But the show just kind of falls apart from there. With this show, with this season, I think the writers did what they set out to do. I think they told the story that they wanted to tell. It's just that I, for whatever reason, could not emotionally invest in this story. It was really hard for me. And like I said, towards the end, once you start to see these emotional arcs start to resolve, like the conversations that Jessica has with Trish in the hospital, where, presumably she has superpowers now, but where Jessica is like, look, I mean, you need to be the hero, right? That's Trish's whole arc. She's self-destructive in such a way where she just needs to be the hero. She feels inadequate next to Jessica and all that kind of stuff. Totally, that makes sense to me. And some of the conversations she has at the end, like I think the Ferris wheel scene is cool. Not cool in the outcome, obviously. She gets killed. Alyssa gets killed. But just cool in the way that it was set up, the lights and everything. And then the conversation, I thought it was good. I also like that we're trying to open up Jessica in such a way where, she's admitting that she lived her life untethered is one of the last things that she says. And she's truly trying to open up, I think, with the landlord or the superintendent rather, and his kid. I think that whole thing was good. But, I'm curious to see now whether that actually translates into season 3. I feel like from the beginning of season 2, after the events of Defenders and Jessica Jones season 1, we didn't see much change. And so this was a very similar Jessica to what we saw in season 1, a very, again, just a very self-loathing kind of character. And I think that Kristen Ritter's performance, is what is really keeping me captivated by this show. But I was just disappointed because I didn't hate season 1 of Jessica Jones. And I will say now, in hindsight, watching season 2, I like season 1 a good deal more than season 2. It wasn't bad. It just, it wasn't the kind of show that I gravitate towards, right? But I was hoping, okay, let's kind of dive into season 2 and let's build on things. And instead, I walked out of season 2 going, I just don't know. I mean, maybe it's this world, this subset of this Marvel Cinematic Universe that I just can't get on board with. I liked her a lot in Defenders, and I'm excited to see her in Daredevil Born Again season 2 because I think that her dynamic with Matt Murdock is going to be really fun to see again. I just don't know what it is about her solo adventures, I don't know. People are clamoring, I think, for a Jessica Jones revival as well. And if that happens, I'll be there to watch it. I'll be very curious to see how they're going to handle this character. But it seems like Jessica Jones is that one show. Maybe it's like Eternals. I love Eternals. Everyone else on this channel seems to hate Eternals. That's fine. It's totally fine. I love Eternals. I don't like Jessica Jones. And for whatever reason, it's that show that everyone else seems to like. And I don't. I'm really hoping, though, going into season 3, whenever we get to that, it's going to be early 2026. I have to imagine at the earliest that we get to Jessica Jones season 3. Anyways, when we do, I really hope it's my favorite out of all of them. I hope that every show that I watch, Luke Cage season 2 is up next. I hope that one becomes my favorite out of all of them. You know, it just wasn't in the cards this time around. So guys, that is our rewatch, or I guess really first time watching of Jessica Jones season 2. Did you guys enjoy the season more than I did? I hope so. And we're looking forward to the next season, which is Luke Cage season 2. Let me know what you guys thought about Jessica Jones season 2 in the comments down below.